So I just would like to make a quick reminder of what we have developed and implemented during this project. So this project, it was a joint effort of 12 institutions from 8 European countries under CNES coordination. CNES is the French Space Agency. And so it was funded by the European Commission, and the objective was to train at least 20 African trainers to the use of Copernicus data and services in 3 languages, French, English, and Portuguese, in 16 African countries, and also to co-develop and implement Copernicus local training sessions. And the objective was to train in total 300 local trainees, and also to integrate Copernicus modules into existing local curricula and training catalogs. And also one of the objectives was to develop the network of Copernicus relays and academies in Africa, and to raise awareness regarding Copernicus in Africa through the organization of webinars. So the project is started in October 2022, and it has lasted until October 2025. And in 2026, we have these follow-up activities with the organization of webinars that on thematic of interest for the African countries. And just coming back to the training resources that we have developed in the framework of this project. We have developed, with the participation of European partners, we have developed modules focused on different basic skills to process remote sensing data, and especially Copernicus data. So one module was lasting 1 week, so it's advanced training that was delivered to the trainees. And we have covered also some thematic such as agriculture, disasters monitoring, health, also with epidemiology studies, for instance, forest monitoring, and we have recorded all the lectures that were given in the framework of this project, and all the training content is being hosted on a platform, on a digital learning platform. And so there's a possibility to welcome new users on a self-training mode, so that they can access these training materials, including the courses, the exercises, the answers to the exercises, the recordings of the training also. So if you're interested by accessing this platform, you just need to send us an email. We'll create an account for you. Okay, and so just to say that in the second phase of the project, we have supported the African trainers in the development and implementation of local training sessions on Copernicus applied to local thematics. And the local thematics that were addressed, for example, were landscape and land cover monitoring, forest monitoring, agriculture, and hydrology also. And we have reached through this local training session more than 1,500 trainees. And the countries in which these local training sessions were implemented were Cape Verde, São Tomé and Príncipe, Mozambique, Kenya, Tanzania, Madagascar, Mali, République démocratique du Congo, Bénin, Morocco, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast also. And in each of these countries, there are, so we have African trainers who can be considered, I would say, as Copernicus ambassadors. So there's the possibility also to reach out to them and to have information about their training activities, also research partnership and partnership opportunities in cooperation with them. So here you have some QR codes if you want to read the newsletters that we have written and distributed during the project, and these newsletters are a way to know more about the African trainers' profiles and activities. We have also the developed webinars on Copernicus-related topics, and so you can also watch the replay of these webinars. And also we had some communication activities, taking part in different workshops or events, international events. Okay, so now I would like to come back to the topic of our webinar today, which is the One Forest Vision initiative. So this is an initiative bringing together Earth observation data, local knowledge and field research to monitor carbon and biodiversity in the forest and wetlands of the Congo Basin, with the aim to support integrated national conservation strategies. And so here is I would say the agenda of the webinar. So we will have the pleasure to welcome Laurent Durieux, who is the global coordinator of the OFVI One Forest Vision initiative. So Laurent is a research engineer at the French National Institute of Research for Sustainable Development, IRD. And he's also head of international cooperation at DataTerra, which is an infrastructure doing research in the domain of remote sensing and Earth observation. And also Laurent has spent most of his career coordinating research and scientific infrastructure programs dedicated to improve the access of southern countries to Earth observation capacities for sustainable issues. He is a geographer and remote sensing expert specialized in transdisciplinary sustainable science, using artificial intelligence applied to big Earth data, and is the sciences and research trustee at the We Forest NGO, supporting scientific impact monitoring on climate and biodiversity of forest and mangrove restoration programs. He's also an observer of the scientific and technical review panel of the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands, and finally is the member of the program board of the Group on Earth Observation, GEO. So it's time to give the floor to Laurent. So thanks for your attention. So Cecilia, if you can share the slides that Laurent has prepared. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda and Cecilia. Thanks to CNES and IDGEO to offer us the opportunity to present One Forest Vision initiative in general, and our first scientific results with part of the scientists that are involved in this initiative. So very happy to be here because, of course, the One Forest Vision initiative is building a large part of its work on Earth observation data, and we are very happy to be supported for years by CNES in different programs. And also, we are building this partnership in Central Africa with CNES partners such as the Gabonese Space Agency or such as the GeoDRC. So thanks a lot for this invitation. I will explain here the framework of the result that will be presented by the researchers after me. So it will be much more a framework presentation of the One Forest Vision initiative, so you understand how we obtain all these results. If you could put next slide, please. The first part of the framework is what's the slide before? Yeah, I think it jumped one. Yeah, thank you. So the first dimension of this framework is a dimension of international negotiations around climate and biodiversity issues. Of course, we are in the direction of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals agenda, and forests and wetlands of the tropical regions are very important for this agenda. And we know that we need to accelerate to protect this forests and wetlands if we want to be able to reach the Sustainable Development Goals objectives. So for that, the idea is that instead of having diffuse projects with no links, the idea is how we can have targeted approaches with the countries through coordinated finance, coordinated cooperation in terms of technical and scientific cooperation, so that the countries they are at scale to develop their strategies for forest and wetlands conservation. This has been proposed through what was called the country packages for forest, nature, and climate. So the idea is that group of countries collaborate. I have an echo now. Yeah, if you can cut your mic, I have an echo. Yeah, thank you. So that group of countries collaborate with forest countries to reach a certain level of investment in terms of finance, in terms of cooperation. And that started with this country package signed for DRC, Papua New Guinea, Congo, Colombia, and Ghana, as well as Gabon. The result of that is that for each of these countries, some country package were signed, and One Forest Vision is the French scientific contribution to these country packages. If you can put next slide, please. So these country packages happen in a timeline of political and scientific involvement. If you look at the higher part of this slide, you will see that starting in the 90s, we had preparation of COP15 in Paris, where we had this agreement about climate. In 2022, we had the CBD agreement on biodiversity. And after that, most of the international agenda was how can we merge climate and biodiversity as well as sustainable development goals objectives. And the One Forest Summit that happened in Gabon in 2023 questioned how forests, tropical forests, and in particular of Central Africa, could contribute to this agenda. And then you had, after this One Forest Summit, you had the development of these country packages. If you look below on the scientific timeline, in the 90s, you had the large biosphere atmosphere program in the Amazon, supported by the US, but also by Europe, including France. It was a $150 million scientific program to understand better Amazonian forest. We didn't have the same scale of investment in the Congo Basin, and that's why in 2021 a paper asked for a similar program for Central Africa. In 2023 also we saw a decline of the capacity of the Amazon forest to stock carbon, while looks like forests of the Congo Basin were still having a better reaction to climate change, even if this changed since that. And that's also why Central Africa received a big focus of the political agenda globally. One Forest Vision, together with a sister initiative, Congo Basin Sensitive, was launched during the One Forest Summit with the ambition to balance our scientific investment in this part of the world. This is really the idea really here was to have these three basins view of the forest. Three basins, it means Amazon Basin, Congo Basin, and Southeast Asia and Oceania, including Papua New Guinea forest basins. Those are the three major forest basins where we really have an important contribution of the forest to this climate and biodiversity agenda. Also, other initiatives such as the Science Panel for the Congo Basin or Pangea from NASA also contribute to this effort. And of course, all that with the idea to support the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Yes, next slide, please. So the idea of One Forest Vision was to increase and disseminate scientific knowledge on biodiversity and carbon of forest and wetlands. We all say forest and wetlands, and we define forests as terra firma forests, forests that are not flooded, and wetlands in forest. This is very important in the Amazon, where you have, for example, flooded forests such as the Várzea, and very important in Central Africa, where we have the peatlands. For example, the forest biomass in Central Africa stocks the equivalent of 42 gigatons of carbon, but the peatlands in its soil is as an equivalent of 30 gigatons of carbon. So we don't want to separate forest and these wetlands. One important thing is that we see a very big divide between the effort we have, for example, on the Amazon and what we have in terms of capacity development in Central Africa. So One Forest Vision also will support and is supporting capacity development in Central Africa with many PhD scholarships and other training efforts. Also, we are supporting the development and dissemination of tools to monitor carbon and biodiversity, and you will see the result today by the scientific presentations. So really the idea is to have the science at the core of our effort to support the conservation of biodiversity and carbon in forests and wetlands in the three basins, with a special focus on the Congo Basin. Next slide, please. To do so, we were asked by the next slide. Yeah. So to do so, we are supported by two French ministries, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Research in France, with 6 main institutions that you see here, plus universities, plus data terra research infrastructure, to mobilize the full potential of French scientific research capacity for this cooperation. Next slide. But all this is based on building a partners network. So we work closely with our scientific partners in Central Africa. As you can see, in Gabon, Congo, and DRC. We also work in Uganda and Cameroon that are historical partners. We also have international cooperation, and in particular with GeoTrees program, but also GeoWetlands and GeoBond for biodiversity. All those are GeoWork program activities using Earth observation for these issues, as well as regional collaborations such as Observatoire des Forêts d'Afrique Centrale, OFAC, and other sister initiatives such as CBSI, and of course Partenariat pour les forêts du bassin du Congo, PFBC, and its scientific college. Next slide, please. In summary, One Forest Vision, it's 15 million euro. It was supposed to be 5 years, but now it's we have more 2 years until almost 2030. We have more than 100 researchers involved. We have also many postdoctoral and PhD students supported by this initiative. Next slide. So the results you will see here are mainly the result of the 3 scientific pillars that will be presented. I will not present the scientific pillars because they will be presented by my colleagues, I imagine. Here, I will also remind that One Forest Vision initiatives have two more pillars. One is Pillar 4. It's about human and social sciences and co-building and impact. And Pillar 5 is about capacity building. Really, the idea here is a One Forest. It means it's integrated science. And so we have a lot of work on understanding the forest, biology, biodiversity, animal and plant, but also, of course, we want to remember that Congo Basin forests are the forests where human presence has been the longer in these tropical basins. We can go back up to 1 million years almost, just to give you an idea. And it's also important, of course, that this science serves the impact for the agenda that I presented before. Next slide, please. So very quickly, just to give you an overview, we have more than 50 PhDs, and we have maybe 6 or even more. I think it's more. It's like more than 10 postdocs and engineers contributing, and those PhD are at the moment in Congo, Gabon, and France, and we are also developing some programs to develop PhDs in DRC. We also have more than 40 master grants, and we are developing actually with AFD, CNES, and ESA, and as well as DataTerra, a MOOC. It's an online training for geospatial and AI for sustainable development issues with a forest module supported by One Forest Vision. Next slide, please. This is just to give you a picture of each PhD students. I will not go in detail on all what the works, brilliant works they are doing. It includes work on understanding the forest from the trees to the leaf, looking at conflict between human and elephant, looking at also the peatlands. So it's a large number of scientists, and for us, it's a future of science in Central Africa being supported through that program. And you see a picture here also of the colleague of Sarah that received colleagues from Gabon for one of the training on some of the results you will see. Next slide, please. All what we do was co-built with the partners. So the question was, what science do we need for this climate and biodiversity is linked to forests in these countries? And so we had co-building workshop with the partner countries in all the countries where we work. And all what we do is a result of this co-building effort. Next slide. Also, we have a governance with, for example, we have country committees with who we have regular meetings, and of course, we have a full governance, including a science council with Florence Palas being the president. Durand, if you can, yeah, thank you. And of course, we have a full governance for this initiative, including a science council with Florence Palas from OFVI being the president of this council. Next slide, please. So before you see all the scientific development and all the data that are produced, of course, one question is where all this data goes. And so we have a platform pillar managed by DataTerra with OFVI, IDGEO, and GeoDRC and other partners. So the idea is not to create one more platform. The idea is really to support existing national and regional data platforms so that all the One Forest Vision development in terms of data, product, method, and practices are shared through these platforms. We want to that this scientific data platform are integrated in national digital transformation strategies for forest and wetlands conservation. We co-build the data management plant. We take into account the sovereignty issues that are important for these countries. Also, we develop data access and AI processing services, including Earth observation and in situ and added value products, such as, for example, deep forest vision algorithm, and all that using the DataTerra capacities. We make the link with European platforms such as EOSC through a new project that will be supported by Europe called GenAI for Earth, where we will have a use case, One Forest Vision use case. And so this makes the link with the EOS cloud. And also want to contribute to forest and wetland EBVs. The diagram you have below is to show that we have not a centralized vision of a platform, but really a network vision where all these platforms can communicate all together. Also, you have this house design here, shows that we use the house method to actually map existing platforms. So this is a work that was supported by Laurent Durieux and Pearl Winchester to actually have a stronger impact organizing all these existing platforms in terms of digital transformation. Next slide, please. And I will finish here. Of course, all what we produce is also communicated for different platforms, and we have YouTube, we have a website, we are quite active on LinkedIn. So if you need any more information, please contact us and follow us on these platforms. Thanks a lot.
Just a second. Okay, thank you very much, Laurent, for the presentation of this very ambitious initiative. Before giving the floor to Jérôme Chave, I proposed maybe to welcome some questions, if any. And maybe Jérôme, in the meantime, you can start sharing your presentation. So I don't know if you have any question, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, we will have also a time slot for the discussions at the end of the webinar. Cecilia, if you see any question in the chat, please let me know. Okay, so we will see at the end of the webinar. Jérôme Chave, we have a great pleasure to welcome.
Can you hear me, Linda?
CNRS evolution and geochemistry, the scientific I hope you can share your slides. Okay, I see some slides on screen, so I guess it's fine.
I can hardly hear you, Linda. I am assuming you presented me?
Yes,
okay.
I have.
Yeah,
okay,
I must
so
have a
I don't know if, are you the only one not hearing me well? Because otherwise it can be a problem.
I'm not sure. Anyway, can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
And Laurent, tu m'entendais bien
No,
aussi?
Linda, you were cut. We didn't hear you well.
Maybe I have a problem, you mean, with my internet connection.
All right. So let's get to it.
Sorry.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jérôme Chave. I am involved in this One Forest Vision initiative in one scientific pillar called Understanding Forest Carbon and Biodiversity on the Ground at landscape scale. And here I put together a few slides to explain a bit more what we would like to do and we are actually doing right now with this project. Happy to hear from you about questions you may have. The point, as you of course know, is that we are trying to tackle science questions related to tropical rainforests in the Congo Basin, which are very large. This is the second largest expanse of tropical rainforests of the world after the Amazon. And it's a very important area, but it's also a shelter of biodiversity. It's a crucial asset for climate change analysis. And it's also undergoing a number of threats, as deforestation is one of them. Forest management may be a challenge in some situations. And so this is something for which we have actually a very incomplete understanding and for which we need science to provide some foundations for a lot of decisions that are about to be made, which is really the core of what One Forest Vision is about. With that in mind, we have a lot of remote sensing tools that are being put in space as we speak. One of them has been launched in 2018. It's called a JEDI, which has been launched by NASA. This is a spaceborne laser system, which measures basically height of vegetation. So this is really a transformative technology that it's been around for 8 years now. So it's we have a fairly good understanding of what it does and what it does well and what it does not so well as any instrument put in space. The second one has been put out in space as a satellite on the 30th of April 2025. So it's been a little bit more than 1 year that it's operating. It's called biomass. So obviously biomass is about measuring vegetation carbon content above ground, especially. It's a radar, a P-band radar, and it's really transformative technology. It's an Earth Explorer technology launched by the European Space Agency. And the third one is NISAR, which is also a radar, also developed to understand the structure of vegetation, amongst other things. It's a more classic technology. It's a L-band radar. So we've had a number of L-band radars around for quite some time. So we understand better what we expect for these wavelengths and with this technology. The nice thing with NISAR is that it's a very high frequency revisit radar. And the last one is the brother of JEDI, launched by the Chinese Space Agency called TESIS, which we're starting to know more about, and it's quite interesting as well. So we have an whole ecosystem of satellites. And the point of that the presentation I'm giving today is that in spite of all this data, we still don't know very well to quantify the carbon content of vegetation for reasons I'll explain. The problem is that we cannot really measure carbon in space. We can only estimate indirectly what carbon is in vegetation. The only way to measure really carbon is to go on the ground with boots in the ground, measure or even cut down trees one by one and weight them, which is very difficult, of course, time consuming, and kind of defeats the purpose. If we cut down the trees to understand their biomass, the tree is dead afterwards. So we want to do that a slightly smarter way. And the way we do it is using forest inventory data. So we measure trees one by one in specific areas, and we use models to convert tree inventory information into biomass information, which is the amount of carbon stored in live vegetation, in the trees, in the trunks, in the branches, in the leaves, all the above ground part. And the below ground part is a different story that I won't touch on because, well, for one thing, satellites don't have any access to this information. What we do for below ground, I'll probably use a minute at the end of my presentation to explain this. So what we need to do, we need to pair the information we obtain by satellite with information we obtain on the ground. And for this, we need to make sure that the forest inventories on the ground are synchronous and are actually being done in all typical forests across the planet. And for that, they have to be financed in a durable way, which is kind of obvious if you are based in France or in the US or in Canada or in Sweden. It's kind of obvious. It's been almost a century that the national forest inventories have been providing these resources for at the national level in a statistical, robust way. But this is not the case of many countries in the planet. and even national forest inventories have some pros and cons, and not always ideal for validating remote sensing products. In addition to this, forest inventories like the ones we're using and at One Forest Vision are very important because it's a very simple technology. You don't need to have like satellites. You don't need to talk about AI, talk about all these fancy tools that we talk about. But you can rely on technologies that was around 100 years ago, which is basically a tape measurement device and a spatial measurement device like decameters. And in addition to this, you can really rely on group works, collaboration across countries, and forest plots especially connect with much more than just measurements of trees, tree diameter, tree height, but also the species identity of the trees, botanical information. They also provide information about uh, the special structure of the tree, the geometry, and so forth. And all of this information is not attainable by remote sensing information. So I'm sorry to say this with after being invited by CNES, but not everything can be measurable from space. And this is something we need to bring down to the ground and to collaborations. Of course, also by going on the ground with collaborators, you actually are forced to speak with people on the site. You are actually enticed to understand the reality of measuring or maintaining research projects in different parts of the world, and the realities are obviously very different in different parts of the world, and we have to understand this. And it's gonna kind of ignored if you only focus on remote sensing information. So what we're doing with One Forest Vision is to pair up with a project of the Global Earth Observatory, which GEO, one of this initiative called GeoTrees, and where we want to fund, curate, and collaborate with a lot of partners on sites at different parts of the world. The global vision we have now is to focus on tropical countries because this is where the big challenge is in the Congo Basin, also South America, but Southeast Asia and Oceania are also very important challenges. And we want to focus where the skill set, the people, and the scientific collaborators actually work. And this is those are sites, tropical forest sites where the decades of expertise has been accumulated at the sites. You have points here. Those are not random, taken at random on the map. Those are areas where we have a lot of expertise. We call them those better than sites. They provide much more than sites, than just points on a map. They are what we call super sites. They are really where we have a lot of expertise, a lot of know-how, a lot of access, long-term access, and we can do a lot of things. We can obviously measure trunk diameters and map them in space, but we can also address issues about biodiversity, about carbon cycle, about meteorology, about a lot of disciplinary topics that need to be taken on the ground to really be addressed in a scientific, robust way. And of course, the focus of One Forest Vision is really this part and the center that happens to be in the center of my slide here in tropical Africa. Now, what we are doing with GeoTrees and One Forest Vision is to do three very relatively simple things on the ground. One of them is to measure trees, and this is the ground truthing part. We are for each of these super sites we establish or we remeasure at least 10 1-hectare plots. One hectare of forest is about 500 trees, so this is in the order of 5,000 trees above 10 centimeters in diameter. In some vegetation, we are forced to go to 5 centimeters in diameter, especially in dry forests or in open forests. So this is a bit more work, but in general, we use the 10 centimeter trunk diameter threshold. We also use airborne LiDAR. So this is not really a ground truthing activity, but this is super helpful to upscale from a few 1 hectare plots to a landscape of 1,000 hectares. And because this is airborne and not spaceborne, we have a very fine detail, and new technologies in LiDAR is excellent at providing the structure of crowns and even the height of the canopy, of course. And the last technology is to actually map or reconstruct the structure of trees using what's called terrestrial laser scanning. And we'll do this also at each of the sites. So we really reconstruct the complexity of tree structure, which really gives a hint of the carbon content of the tree, of the trunk and the whole tree, if we can also scan correctly branches. And of course, biodiversity, I'll get to this later. So a concrete example in tropical Africa is the site of Loki in Southwest Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is led by INRAe. And this is one site where our colleagues from Jean Blou, Liège University, have scanned the site with airborne LiDAR, and we have now almost 15 1-hectare plots that have been measured at least once. And this is really a knowledge base that is very important. You clearly see on this map here, canopy height. You can see trees, individual trees, and the question is how much carbon is there in any chunk of forest of 1 hectare or even a quarter hectare, 50 by 50 meters. Well, you can do a lot more, and Nicolas Barbier will talk about individual delineation of crowns to address a number of very important and interesting scientific questions. And you can do this for at least delineating the size of the trees, understanding their by botanical identity, and third, very importantly, understanding their the pulse, their seasonal pulses in leaf production, what's called phenology. And so, as you see here in this map, you saw some trees are leafless and other are full of leaves. And this follows a seasonal pattern for some species, not for others. And it's very important to understand what species does what, because this is really the engine of photosynthesis. As we all know, forests are much more than carbon; they're also biodiversity, and also we're also involved in this activity of trying to improve the quality of this tool, this internet-based tool called PlantNet, that helps identify species using artificial intelligence, but also a lot of expertise from the ground. So how it works is if you download PlantNet on your smartphone, you can use a huge knowledge base to identify any photograph of plant, a leaf, a flower, or a whole plant, based just on the knowledge of your of what's behind this big engine. And the question we've been asking at One Forest Vision is how do we improve the quality, the knowledge base of this fantastic tool, PlantNet, in tropical Africa. And so we've been, the team here has been going at the different super sites, this time not to measure trunk diameters, but to take photographs of trees, and of canopy trees and also understory trees with leaf characteristics and flower characteristics to increase the knowledge base. Also to collaborate with a lot of botanists on the ground who already have tons of data that can be leveraged to have this information. So the objectives One Forest Vision for PlantNet is to facilitate identification of tropical plants and to involve the community by explaining how PlantNet works and also leveraging all this knowledge base. This has been used in Southeast DRC based on long-term work by colleagues, and it's been also used for a number of plant families like Annonaceae, Orchidaceae, Rubiaceae, ferns, trees, and lianas, and so forth. One thing that's an emerging theme in this topic is to use the combination of drone information with high powered lens with great zooms that give access to leaf structure and shape using drones, so you can identify using PlantNet whole trees from above. So this is amazing technology, really. So I started my talk saying that technology cannot do anything, and you have to rely on very low-tech approaches for science in some cases. But this is because we've done this in the first place, and because we know what this tree is, that we can now leverage this new information. Now, with this, I'd like to thank you. I just will use my last minute, if I can, to say that below ground, this is a very interesting story going on. A lot of people are interested in also understanding how much carbon there is below ground and how much biodiversity there is below ground. This is a obviously very important frontier. We haven't really tackled this problem at One Forest Vision, but hopefully for our forthcoming project, we'll be sufficiently organized and empowered to do this research. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Jérôme. Can you hear me well?
Yes, no.
Yes. Okay, great. So many thanks for this very interesting presentation, and it's also always very useful to know that, to be aware that satellite data are not the unique way to get observation measurements from the forest or from the environment, and they are only part of a global data set. And for sure, in situ data and airborne data that are more than valuable and indispensable data. And I would like to ask if there are any question on the presentation, or so you can put your question in the chat. Maybe I have one question for you, Jérôme, because you were mentioning the remote sensing missions that are useful to monitor the biomass. And I would like to ask why you were not mentioning Sentinel-1, which is the radar mission from Copernicus. So what is your opinion about the Sentinel-1? Not your opinion, but how can it be used to monitor the forest cover or the biomass?
Well, it's a great question. It's a great link also to our forthcoming talk. I don't know if Philippe Thier is actually present to present a pillar 3. But
He
one
should,
of the
but I don't know if
he
he's
should.
with us or not. Okay.
Yeah, I actually what can be leveraged right now is not biomass, not NISAR, and a little bit of JEDI. Actually, JEDI can be leveraged, but a lot of what we are doing right now at One Forest Vision with Pillar 3, which is led by Philippe Thier, is really based on Sentinel-1 and also Sentinel-2, but mostly Sentinel-1 because the great thing about radar is that it sees below clouds. And this is a real advantage in the tropics where clouds are all the time covering the sky. So a lot of what has been achieved, and it's a fantastic achievement, I should say, and I don't want to spoil the next presentation, but it's really based mostly on Sentinel-1 information. One of the great advantages is also that it's a high resolution spatially. It's 10 meters compared with what biomass will be able to provide at 100-meter resolution. So it's very complementary, and so we have a whole ecosystem now of satellites, and we need to leverage these different facilities. I also saw a question about asking whether PlantNet is available. Yes, it is. It's available on Apple smartphones and Android-based smartphones, and please download them and play with that, in your in your garden if you want to start there, or wherever you like, and provide feedback, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jérôme. Laurent, do you know if Philippe is with us or not? Because I don't see him among the participants.
Yes, I was also actually looking for him and other colleagues, but we have two colleagues that are sick, unfortunately this week, and
yes,
so I don't have a feedback from Philippe yet. So I was thinking maybe he sent one of these many postdocs, but I didn't see one here. If there is one, please communicate to us. But I was not able to communicate with Philippe yet. So I will continue. Maybe we can pass to the next presentation, and then
okay.
if I'm able to catch him, we will ask him to present. Thank you. And I see other questions about PlantNet and drone. So maybe for
yes,
Jérôme.
maybe we can address the questions.
I don't know if Jérôme wants to answer this question, or maybe other.
Sorry, I was I'm trying to navigate this interesting but quite challenging platform, as they all are. I don't see really where the questions are.
So the question basically is about using PlantNet for drone imagery, and how it will be possible actually to integrate it in Python or Arf workflow with an API. It's quite a technical question.
Okay. Well, drone-based imagery can be leveraged to calibrate the PlantNet and also to use PlantNet for identification. This is being done right now at different places. One Forest Vision is contributing to do this, and the teams from Montpellier are really actively involved in this in several countries in tropical Africa. So that's one answer. And as for what routines are being applied, that is beyond my knowledge capacity. So I will gladly refer anyone. Please send me an email, and I'll refer this question to people who actually know what they're talking about, which is not me.
Okay.
And if it's Arthur, we can talk about this. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much to you, Jérôme. So I propose now that we go on with the presentation from Bertrand, Ygorra, and Solène Renaudineau. So Solène is a PhD student at INRAe, which is the French National Institute for Research on Agriculture and Environment. And also, I believe she's also a PhD student from the University of Genève in Switzerland. And Bertrand is a researcher in environmental physics, working also at INRAe. And his main work consists in analyzing remote sensing radar data to estimate biomass, deforestation time, and area, and currently in the intertropical zone. So welcome, Bertrand and Solène. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm going to share my slides.
So maybe
So, hello everybody. Today I'm going to speak to you about the detection of changes in forest cover based on Sentinel-1 and Pulsar-2 data. We also have an application to road detection and regrowth quantification. So, as was shown and spoke earlier, the main problem over the intertropical region using optical data is, as you can see on the left image, the presence of clouds. The radar data, for example, here Sentinel-1 data image of the same date, can go through the clouds and see the structure of the trees beneath. So we have developed an algorithm called the CUSUM, which is able, based on the time series of the data, to detect a change in a disturbance in the forest cover. For that, we simply use the temporal coherency of the signal by comparing the cumulative sum of the residuals to a shuffled time series. For example, we randomly shuffle the position of the data, and then we try to see if the shuffled images have a higher amplitude than the original orange one. So with that, we were able to detect, for example, image B, as you can see here. The purple detections are very numerous, but they are also too numerous. We have many false positives, but we detect well, for example, all the roads that appear here. And then if we go with higher parameter, then we will have the blue detections, which is very few detections, but well-placed detections. So we had the idea of combining here the blue detections with the purple ones. We only keep the purple, well, the rose purple, the detections if they are intersected with a blue detection. So that brings us to image C, which is a map of disturbance detection. And as we can see, most disturbances are found near the roads, and we also detect well the roads and something that is along the roads. So to that, I answer that here is in DRC. We can see the dates of the changes detected. So we can see the progression of the road in the IFCO concession, code 018, near Kisangani. And we can see that the further we are from the main road, the later the detections. But we also have, near the roads, some detections that have completely different dates. And that is why it is important to attribute the detection, because so far we are only detecting disturbances, but now we would like to detect a road or other things like, for example, agroforestry. This is why we are based on machine learning. We try to attribute the creation of road based on the learning of the shape of the data. For example, are we more aligned in the detections, or the detections are more squarish, or are they circles? So that is why then we were able to first design the roads and the different non-forest vegetation or clear cuts that appear in blue. But then again, we had also to take into account the texture of the radar data to be able to differentiate the main roads that appear in purple here from the green disturbances that are near the roads, which we can input, for example, to drying vegetation. We also have, using Pulsar 2, which is another band that penetrates further the canopy, we also have a wide application on the whole intertropical band, and here we are only presenting the data from 2020 to 2025 on Gabon and Equatorial Guinea. As we can see here, we don't have the same small detections, but we have wider detections and also on the whole intertropical area. Which brings us to Solène Renaudineau.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah, perfect. So Bertrand told you about how we can use the CUSUM algorithm to monitor the deforestation. And for my case, I was interested in reforestation. So how it works? Okay, thanks. So Bertrand told you about the CUSUM algorithm for the deforestation. So when we go from a high backscatter to a low backscatter, in my part, it's the opposite. I will go from a low backscatter to a high backscatter. So in fact, I just make the opposite of the CUSUM of Bertrand. So I make the opposite of the signal, and we can see that we are able also to detect changes. I repeat this process on a small sliding window across all the period to detect all the reforestation that I can have during this time. And I decided to use two different SAR sensors, Sentinel-1, which is able to reach the top of the canopy, and Pulsar-2, which is able to reach the trunk of the trees or even the ground if the forest is not too dense. My study area is located in Democratic Republic of the Congo near Kisangani, at the east of Kisangani. And here is the result for the total number of changes that I have with the algorithm for Sentinel-1 on the top and on the bottom Pulsar-2. And we can see that with Sentinel-1 we have a lot of detections, especially also on the stable forests, which was not the case for Pulsar-2. However, we have the same pattern of high number of changes for the two different sensors. Then, based on Sentinel-2 images, at least 3 per year, I could define some polygons of different vegetation types, cropland, agroforestry, regrowth, and stable forests. And I extract the total number of changes that I had with the CUSUM algorithm to see if I am able to differentiate with the total number of changes the different vegetation types. And here is the results. So on the left for Pulsar-2 and on the right for Sentinel-1 with the CUSUM in deforestation and in reforestation. And today I will just present the results for Pulsar-2 because it was the most interesting, because we could see that with Pulsar-2, we were able to make the distinction between the regrowth and the other type of vegetation. However, we were not able to make the differences between cropland and agroforestry. So we think that maybe with additional texture analysis, we could manage this problem. But for the moment, what I could do, it was to make a classification based on this total number of changes. So I defined 3 different classes: stable forests, regrowth, and others, which contain cropland and agroforestry, but I cannot differentiate with the total number of changes. And thanks to Ghent University, I could have validation data to make confusion matrix. And in this kind of matrix, we expect that this red square will be in blue. So we have a total match between the validation data and the classification. But we can see that it's not the case for the regrowth because the classification find that it's more define the regrowth pixels in more unstable than in regrowth. In fact, I think it's because of the validation data. It's really difficult to obtain validation data in this region and really specific to what we study. And in fact, the secondary forest in this validation data is probably already too old to be detected as regrowth and is already considered as stable forests in our algorithm. So I will try to manage that and add other analysis to see if we are able to have a better map. But in conclusions, we adapt the CUSUM algorithm to follow the regrowth. Thanks to the total number of changes, we were able to make the distinction between regrowth and other vegetation types. And we hope that with additional analysis like texture or maybe tree height, we were able to have a better map of the regrowth and maybe apply this algorithm at a larger scale to have an idea of the regrowth of the Congo Basin. So that's it for my part. So if you have any question, I will be happy to answer it, and Bertrand too.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bertrand and Solène, for this very pedagogical presentation. it's always nice to go inside the algorithms to know more about the calculation and the principles, and it was very clear. So I don't know if there are any questions. Maybe I can try to ask one question. Okay, so there's question from no, just someone congratulating you.
Thanks.
But, just maybe this is an aspect of the algorithm that I have missed, but I guess you're taking into account some spatial criteria, like I guess it was presented in the presentation of Bertrand, the question of the connection between the pixels, or also texture, something like that. Okay. Okay, so this is something you want to do in the future, right?
Sorry, I'm just going to use another speaker because I couldn't hear the question.
Okay, sorry. No problem. If you could not hear the question, that was not very important. Sorry, my connection, internet connection is bad. Maybe I should stop my video also. Maybe Laurent, if you could take over and for the coordination, because it seems that I have some internet connection problem. I see a question in the chat.
To answer the question in the chat, no, I didn't use the coherence from S1 in the change detection. I used the direct GRD data, which I removed the speckle off. And then we are really working on the idea that the value of the data of the source signal for stable forest is very different in terms of stability than the ones from non-forest vegetation or bare soils. And so we are really, I spoke about the coherency of the data, but it was more about the fact that the high value are regrouped with other high value in time.
Okay, thank you.
Does it answer to your question?
Jospin Nego, if you are satisfied with the answer. I'm also a bit lost on that platform. I don't know where it's Jospin, so I imagine if you want to take to answer, turning on your mic, don't hesitate. Yeah, if not, we can continue. Is there any other question? Oh, maybe Jospin, if you want to take the mics, because you can explain better your question, if you agree, than to use the chat.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Very insightful, especially the use of radar data for forest change detections. It's a subject that I'm really interested in because I've noticed that in our area, especially Congo Basin, it's really, really difficult to get data without clouds. So I was just wondering if they used is JD data the same like Sentinel-1? Because you talked about resolution of around 100 meters. Oh, I know that Sentinel-1 has as resolution 10 meters. So I was a bit confused about that. That is the first question. And for the second, I talked about coherence because I know that based on the roughness, if I can say like that, it's easier to identify the change based on the coherence, because when there is a specific position where the coherence has been has experienced any perturbations, maybe trees, cuts, or forest fires, that could be easier to identify it from the coherence than using directly the INSA images. So I was just wondering, what techniques did you really use for your study? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So we did not use any JEDI data, and it was we used indeed the 10 megapixel resolution from Sentinel-1. We apply a minimum mapping unit to remove all the very small detection less than 3 pixels of Sentinel-1, so 300 square meters. Also, we did not use the coherency, as using coherency is often computational intensive. The computation takes a lot of time and a lot of resources, but it would be a very interesting topic to use.
Thank you, Jospin. Maybe opportunities for future collaboration between the team. Don't hesitate to share your contact infos, and thanks again for the question. So unfortunately, we will not have Philippe Sier today, and as well as Nicolas Barbier, but thank you, Jérôme, to be candidate to make the presentation of Nicolas. And so the floor is yours. Thank you, Jérôme.
Okay. Hello again. So one of the activities of what One First Vision is doing, and I was hinting to this in the previous presentation, is to try and understand a bit more than just the storage of carbon in forests, but to also understand the dynamics, the functioning of this forest, which is far more important and interesting from the scientific standpoint. So this presentation was prepared by Nicolas Barbier, who is with many co-authors in a lab called the AMAP. It's in Montpellier. It's a fantastic lab full of excellent scientists, and with great collaboration with people around. Some present today, so I hope I will not torture too much your thoughts and your findings. Let me just try to put this full screen. Can you still see the slides? Yeah, so here we go.
Yes.
So, okay, maybe there is a lot of content in this presentation, so I'll go quickly here. A lot of the motivation for trying to understand what happening with tropical forest is that we have still a lot of misunderstanding or imprecise knowledge about how currently the tropical forests are functioning and what is the future of this forest, most importantly. And this is showing, this slide here is showing at least one presentation about scenarios by Chen et al. And it shows that many different dynamic vegetation models have widely different predictions for the seasonality patterns of tropical rainforests. Seasonality in terms of how they behave from January to December, in terms of the gross primary productivity, the amount of carbon that's stored, that's produced by photosynthesis, not all of which is actually stored in terms of tissue, but this is really it's a striking result here is that there can be a threefold difference in terms of what the different models are predicting, and also these models are predicting something that's completely opposite in terms of compared to the observations. So many models predict maximal photosynthesis in July and June, and the actual observation is the opposite. So we need to understand that, and for that we don't know a lot, and we need to have better understanding on the ground again. From space, understanding the greenness of vegetation has been for a long time based on leaf area indices that have been acquired at 300-meter resolution by the MODIS instrument, which has been launched by NASA and has been operating for a long time. So this has been a bit like a gold standard when looking at seasonality of vegetation, especially forests. For many applications, This is kind of trivial, especially in the northern and southern hemisphere. When you're outside of the tropics, you have a very strong seasonality because you have the summer-winter break. In the tropics, it's much more complicated. There are many types of evidence. One of them is based on eddy flux tower information on the ground, which measure the photosynthetic capacity of carbon storage by a forest. But this is not telling the whole story. Now, what is now being taken into account is the capacity of trees, individual trees, to behave differently in a tropical rainforest. So now let's focus on tropical rainforests and try to understand how they function. So different types of trees and tree species operate differently. On the top here, you see lines here, and those lines represent the phenological pattern. By phenology, again, I mean how trees replace their leaves over time. And some of them are deciduous, fully deciduous. That means that they completely shed the leaves at some point in time, and then the new leaves appear, and next year they do exactly the same. So that's kind of regular. They're sort of playing the same music every year. Some are occasionally deciduous. It depends on how harsh the dry season is, for instance. And some years they may skip actually shedding the leaves because it doesn't pay off, basically. Some are pluriannual. They are shedding the leaves more than once a year. Some are evergreen. They do shed the leaves, but in a kind of erratic pattern, at least erratic for us. There may be some reasons we don't understand. And some are brevideciduous, that they've shed the leaves, but really, really briefly. And it may be actually hard to monitor. So related to this, you understand that the lifespan of every individual leaf in the tree depends crucially on this. On the top, deciduous trees, a leaf cannot be more than 1 year in age. In the case of evergreen, leaves can be very long-lived and can actually span more than 1 year. On the bottom right here, it's a very old study by Sabrina Russo and Kuro Kitajima, who've been monitoring the age of individual leaves in a forest in Panama. And you see that some leaves, they last for over 1,000 days, which is more than 3 years, which is just amazing. And actually, some leaves have been proved to be still alive for over 5 years, which is completely crazy when you think about it, right? And the other aspect is that leaves, they age, and so over time, their capacity, photosynthetic capacity, which is measured by this quantity, VC max, degrades over time. So this is basically the physiological reason why a tree sheds its leaf. It's because the leaf is not functional anymore. It has to be rejuvenated, which is exactly what our hair are doing. We sort of grow the hair permanently. Trees they do exactly the same for the leaves. So the project of Nicolas and his many colleagues in tropical Africa, but also in South America with the French Guiana, and in Southeast Asia, in Thailand and Cambodia, is to try to establish a network that monitors the trees from above. So it's a bit of a crazy project if you think about it. It's called CANOPS. And the thing is that the only way to do this until recently would have been to use binoculars and to observe trees one by one on a regular basis, so to be on the ground all the time. This has been done actually by some scientists, and it's super time consuming. The alternative to this is to use drones and to have regular flights of drones on the same area and to observe always the same trees, but of course at a different phenological stage. And trying to then upscale this at stand scale, landscape, regional scale, and then go global. This is the ambition of the project. What's really novel is really this drone-based approach. Well, that's my opinion here, trying to make sense of this slide as we go. Now, this is a slide that comes from one single tree that has been observed on the 23rd of October 2020. And then the 5th of November 2020 and so forth, you can read for yourself. The last observation is on the 11th of May 2021, almost exactly 5 years ago. And you see this tree, which is a large emergent from French Guiana called Parkel nitida. It's a mimosoid legume, has been shedding its leaves almost entirely, except for one branch, which actually may be a liana or whatever, I don't know. And then there is a flush of new leaves, very bright green. And then again, the trees, the leaves mature. So by looking at the trees above on a regular basis using drone overflights, you can see this dynamic very, very precisely within a single tree and even within the tree from the different branches of the tree. So this is another illustration on the right, which is very picturesque visualization of an agatis. So this is a coniferous tree from New Caledonia. Very nice architecture of leaf shapes and branch shapes. So this ends up looking like this type of diagrams where the x-axis on the bottom right of this slide is time, and the y-axis shows how green the leaves are, how young the leaves are. And you see that most of the trees are seasonal. They are actually shedding their leaves just at the beginning of the dry season, and they put new leaves during the end of the dry season. But some do pretty much random things. They shed their leaves whenever. So they are not all the same. And we know this because there are different species. So this is a slide that showed part of it already. So we're looking at the tree from using AI. AI helps a lot at identifying trees, at segmenting shapes of the crowns, and at trying to provide some temporal picture of the phenological patterns. Basically, you can think of this problem as a time series of maps, where each map is a time where the drone has been flown, and you have different times of drones being flown. Now, this is becoming very beautiful artistically, but quite complex scientifically. So this is an image from one site in Cameroon, just south of Yaoundé. The site is called Balmayo in Cameroon. And this area has been flown several times. And what they've tried to do here, in addition to doing some fancy art, is try to illustrate with a palette of color the different types of plant strategy, plant phenological strategies. And you see that if you try to do this, and I cannot really explain much more than this because I've not looked at the analysis itself. I couldn't tell you what blue means or what red means, but you can get the picture. You see that the forest all of a sudden looks very different. You have pockets of colors that probably correspond to the same species of trees, or maybe the same plant functional type anyway. And this can be illustrated here in this picture, this temporal picture, where you see that this index of color, which they call the GCC, is varying. I suppose from one tree to the next over time. And so the bottom left map is over several kilometers, and there is a zoom on the right, where you see that actually trees can be seen individually, and they can be classified. So you can think of this map as a classification tool of this imagery. Now, as I was saying before in my first talk, you can go a bit more than that. You can use drones to illustrate, to have one pass over several square kilometers of forest and to image trees one by segmenting the crowns. But you can also try to zoom with a very accurate lens. And by doing this, you start to see the crown becoming much more closer, and then closer, even closer, and you can start to see the leaf or the leaflet in that case of this agatis tree. Oh no, this is Pycnensis, my bad. I was So this is again another image on the bottom, where you from the left to the right you see exactly the same tree, but you zoom more and more and you start to see features that you could image using a smartphone if you were on the ground. But the only difference is that it's probably several dozen meters above ground, this image. So this opens the opportunity of identifying the crown using drone information, which is really opening a whole new dimension of the applications for this for this project. And this is what is being done by combination of drone-based photographs and PlantNet, I was explaining before. So the main result of this application, which is based from data acquired in New Caledonia, very far away from Central Africa, by a group led by Vanessa Eke, is that 83.8% of the species were correctly identified by this this technology, which means that we could use a lot more this approach to facilitate the identification of tree species, even canopy tree species, in the future. Those are obviously the most difficult to identify, because if you want to identify them well, you have to climb the tree and you have to be super careful not to fall, and you have to collect it preferably when it's fertile, when you have flowers or fruits. By doing this new approach, you can just fly the drone and pick a nice picture when there is whenever you like. So it's really cool result. So I'm going to pass this. I think the point of this slide is to say that in addition to optical imagery, you can also use LiDAR imagery, airborne LiDAR imagery, to provide a spatial three-dimensional representation of forest in a very accurate way. So this is a beautiful picture, although it's more art again than science. It doesn't explain a lot, it doesn't answer any question, but you can see for yourself the potential of this. And this is based on a sensor that can be bought off the shelf, and the drone also that can be bought off the shelf. I'm not saying this is cheap, but this is far cheaper than launching a satellite outside of this of the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, I'm a bit lost now about the additional point that was supposed to be made here. But basically, I suppose that the point is that you can produce this with this information of LiDAR beyond optical imagery, beyond actual imagery. You can also provide what is called plant area density, basically the equivalent of leaf area index, but very accurately for each crown. So you can really measure how much leaf there is within each crown, which is simply impossible to do by classic techniques if you're not following the tree and you count leaves one by one. So this is an image that is coming from I don't know where actually, probably a French Guiana, I suppose, which is illustrating how much greenness there is in a plot of forest. And so plant area density is a bit of a difficult measure to make sense of, but think of it as the equivalent layer by layer of the leaf area index. So let's think of it as a greenness of the forest. And over time, which I suppose this illustration is showing, you see that not every pixel is equally green. Obviously, there are some areas that have lost a tree, which are and they are not green at all, and some of them are also flushing from times to times. So there are more greens in some areas than in other areas. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but here on the bottom left, here you see clearly a crown which is becoming green and then less green, and this is a flushing event. So you can see an amazing level of detail here over large areas for many trees, and this is becoming very representative for addressing questions of upscaling from the tree to the landscape. So there is obviously a seasonal variability, as we've seen before, for plant area index, or for this color scheme, this color variation. And you see that when you do this for several years, you see actually a seasonality. Plant area index, which is the equivalent of leaf area index, but it includes also more than just leaves, also non-photosynthetic material. You see that there is a clear variability, and from measuring different sites and different locations on this landscape, you see that there is also a variability at very, very fine scale. And this plant area index, we tend to think of leaf area index being set at 7. And you see that the measurements here are much more than that, because there is more than photosynthetic material also. This is a paper in preparation by a PhD student, maybe he's not PhD anymore, James Bale. Very nice stuff. And this can be compared with eddy flux tower data at the Guia flux site in French Guiana. So I'm assuming this previous slide was also about French Guiana. So there's many more to be done. I'm not sure when the slide are finishing, but from there you can try to understand not only where are the leaves available and green, but also are different leaves of the same photosynthetic capacity. And to do this well, you actually still need to go up the trees, collect the leaves, and make actual measurements for their photosynthetic capacity using a light core instrument, for their hydraulic capacity using some tools like osmometers and others, leaf spectral properties, and element concentration really. So there is a lot more that we need to do to understand well these forests, and it takes a lot of effort, as you see, getting the expertise to climb the trees, not fall from when you do that, and collect the samples. So this is, I'm assuming, taken from French Guiana, although I'm not completely sure, but this is for sure going to be exported to One Forest Vision initiative. Those are also extremely expensive field missions, because you have to hire professional climbers, you have to have all the equipment, and this is something that we are in shortage of. And I think if you are a fundraiser here, consider funding us for doing this, because this is really essential data for modeling purposes. Finally, there are some preliminary results. So going full circle from the first slides that I was showing to you, we are also trying to acquire little by little leaf age data at those sites. And so they are a bit all over the place, but this is very, very valuable information, because it is crucial in modeling aspects. And this will, the vision is that this should go in models like this one, which is an individual based model, but many other models need the type of information I was describing to you to even remotely have a chance to make reliable predictions about the future of tropical rainforests. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention. I leave you with this wonderful picture of a tropical rainforest in the midst of the morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jérôme. I don't know if you can hear me, but Laurent, do you want to take over? Or is
That's
it,
okay. We hear you well, Linda.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Laurent, and thank you very much, Jérôme. That's very nice to see all this variety of sensors, from the leaf to the trees to the canopy observations, and also drone measurements, and up to satellite data. So that's very, very nice to have this comprehensive view of all the sensors that can be used to observe the forest environment. Are there any questions? Okay, for the moment I don't. If you have any question also related to all the presentations that were made during this webinar, please feel free to ask. So again, please apologize because we were not able to hear Philippe Sier, but maybe we will have a catch-up webinar. I would say after summer, and maybe we can also propose to Nicolas Barbier. And first we have to hope he will recover soon. And so the presentation of Philippe here I guess it was most dedicated to remote sensing data, but hopefully thanks to the presentation from Bertrand and Solène, we had an insight into the use of Sentinel-1 data for the monitoring of forests. Okay.
Maybe Linda.
Laurent, yes.
Yeah, just to and thank you and congratulations, Jérôme, that you were able to do such a hard presentation, doing a very nice impro. But we can see you know so much about it that you adapted, and so thanks a lot and sorry for the inconvenience. Yeah, I think it's important to remember that all this data, all this narrative about forest we show here is in a context where, and actually the Philippe Sier data and also the team shows that very well about the dynamic of deforestation and degradation in the tree basin. So if you look recently, the Global Forest Watch, you know, it's an international initiative looking at the forest of the three basins. They have shown that we a strong decrease of deforestation last year, and this also give some hope about the fact that if we use correctly this data and if we have political will, we can have an impact. That's what we observe in Brazil, where deforestation went really down. We also see that because of climate change, these forests really suffer from dry year. So 2024 we had really high fire level of fire, and so we have this concern about the tipping point about this forest being able to adapt to climate change. So really, it's important to have these efforts of observation and understanding of both, of course, the carbon, the water, and the biodiversity in this forest. So the issue now is. As you see, we have more and more results, and it's great to see that we can develop citizen science application, and then we can apply it to drone data. The interoperability of methods is really at a high level today, as we never had such a level of interoperability before. But the question now is how all this data can reach decision makers so that they take good decision, and we support stakeholders in the forest countries to use it for to take good decisions about forests. So I think this is also a challenge of using Earth observation. But I think what was demonstrated today is that Earth observation, when it's linked to in situ data, supersites, human interoperability, is not about only technical. This is our ability to work together, and then we can really describe better, understand better the forest to take good decision. And I hope through all this presentation, we gave an overlook about all that. Yeah. So just a comment on after Jérôme's presentation. Jérôme, maybe you want to complement?
Yeah, I was just offering to show a couple slides from Philippe Sier.
Yes,
because it would be a bit of a shame. It's one of the best achievements of the One Forest Vision project science-wise. I mean, there's been many achievements.
Okay, great.
Okay, yeah. So
thank you very much.
It's not going to be the full presentation, but at least will give you a hint or an interest to get in touch with the team. All right, let me try to do this. I stop my sharing and share again. And no, this is not the proper one. Yeah, this one. Can you see the slide? Can you see my slide?
Maybe if you can put it in full screen.
Yes. Okay. So this slide was shown a bit more than a year ago, so I'm sorry. I was really trying to search for relevant material. It's not very recent, but this is providing a glimpse into what is being done in a Philips CS group with a lot of people involved. I will skip quickly into the third pillar, where the core groups are again ISPA. We've heard already some results from the group of Bordeaux, but LSE is from Paris. It's a very large lab working on these types of questions. And the key point here, I think, is this slide. So, which is not a very simple slide, but the bottom line here is try to use the Sentinel data at 10-meter resolution and a deep learning model based on the training using a JEDI LiDAR to produce maps of about canopy height and above ground biomass over the entire region of Central Africa. So this is really one of the most important deliverables of One Forest Vision. So if you think of the problem, there's one way to start looking at this very complex diagram here is to start from the middle, the data download and pre-processing. You have Sentinel-1 data, which are C-band radar information obtained at 4 to 8 days temporal resolution. And they look below the clouds. Then Sentinel-2 are optical, and they need to be passed through cloud detection mask. This is a huge problem in Central Africa, especially towards Gabon, which is very cloudy all the time. And then you have JEDI, especially the level 2A product, which is used to do some ground a quasi ground resolution validation for this algorithm. So all of this is taken together, and is stacked and harmonized and so forth, and they are put into a neural network, a UNet neural network that takes these images and converts them into canopy height in this case. And then using some additional information, that canopy height is converted into above ground biomass by some conversion of height and some empirical knowledge, ground-based knowledge of how canopy height is related to above ground biomass. So the two core products is canopy height measured over entire landscapes and above ground biomass over entire landscapes and over entire regions, which is a crucial type of knowledge we want to have. Now, this is the type of information we have based on this information. The images are much better now. This is a year-old application, and you see that the canopy height can be observed using at the top here. You have airborne LiDAR information, which give the gold standard for canopy height models in this type of application. The second one is quotes and quotes ORS, which is really theirs application by One Forest Vision. And this is compared with at least 3 other products produced by the Meta group, the Potapov group by University of Maryland, and the Poles group. I forget which is which. No, actually, Poles is the Meta, and Lang is a group from Switzerland. So you see from the same landscape, if you see on the left, you compare visually only these images, you see that the neural network developed by LSE is much better in quality already than the other 3. And this is confirmed by comparing the ground data from LiDAR in black in space against the red one, which is the OFVI map, and the other 3 are not as good, although the green one is not so bad. I'm not sure which one is the green one in this application. Anyway, so already 1 year ago, the data, this algorithm was working beautifully well. bottom line. And next, they went on to exploring this spatial distribution of above ground biomass over the entire region, going from Cameroon all the way to tropical forest east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And you see that the entirety of Gabon is included, and this is where the top biomass storage are. In contrast, the Congo basin drainage is a low above ground biomass stock, and this is fairly different from what we knew from before, and especially the high values of above ground biomass are detected in northern part of DRC, northern part of Congo, and central Gabon. And there is a lot of validation that has been involved in doing these things. That's yeah, I think the next stage that was in their minds was to say, well, now we are able to construct a above ground biomass map. What if we were able to construct two different timelines? Then we would be able to contrast them and to explore the crucial question as to whether tropical forests of the Congo Basin are actual sources or sinks of above ground biomass by just taking the difference of those two maps. And this was done here by additional modeling, and this resulted in this map. Again, this is 1 year ago. I think some of it is submitted for publications, but this is changes in height and maximal height. And you see that at least in the Democratic Republic of Congo, there are some important declines in forest height in several parts of the area, and they seem to be regionally structured. So there seem to be some regional features due to land use change or due to climatic features that I cannot tell. And you see that when you zoom in, you can see the amazing quality of this data and the capacity of this type of analysis to really dive in and to trying to attribute these changes, to go beyond just saying there is a balance and the balance of tropical forest is positive or negative, but trying to understand why this is so. So it sort of reflects on what Bertrand was saying before about, you know, high resolution of this type of products. So this is the type of attribution that is trying to be done, was done, and back again 1 year ago, one of the discovery of this analysis was that there was a very large contribution of small-scale disturbances in forest over these areas, and that led to the idea of trying to explore these determinants of very fine-scale disturbances across the entire tropics. A project that ended up with a paper that just got published in a few weeks ago in the journal Nature, led again by Philippe Thier. So I think this is all I wanted to share here. There's a lot more to be said about the attribution aspects, but I think I'm going way beyond my breath here, trying to interpret this very rich set of data. So I leave you with going by full circle with what Bertrand has probably shown to you before, and try to understand the very fine scale patterns and fishbone patterns of the disturbance of tropical rainforests that really don't show if you don't have very high resolution type information, which is really the next frontier of what we're trying to achieve with this type of scientific research. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks again, Jérôme, for volunteering and making this presentation on behalf of Philippe. Yes, we can have an idea of the very, I would say, state of the art regarding this, the use of AI algorithms to estimate the above ground biomass based on remote sensing data. So do we have any question? I guess we had some question in the chat. One is related to tomography. So I guess it was a question from Jospen Nego again. So Jospen, I don't want to, if you want to intervene and ask, but I guess maybe the question is clear. So I guess the question is related to the methods that are being developed in the framework of the One Forest Vision initiative. So does it integrate a tomography for tree height detection? Could you hear me?
So
I'm not
I
sure.
don't know, Jérôme, Jérôme, if you
Please,
I don't know what type of is it sonic tomography on the super site, and if it's used to compare with the tree height detection from what we do from LiDAR or for remote sensing. Yeah, Jospin, if you could precise your question, because you made it a long time ago, so we don't know at what moment you did it and compared to what presentation. Jospin, can you explain your question, please?
Hello again. Sorry,
Hello.
I had some internet problem. Yes. So to be more precise about my question, I was just wondering, as you have used radar data, what techniques have you used to determine the height of trees? Is it tomography or you have used other techniques? That was my question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you very much. There are different techniques, so far as I can understand. I'm not a radar expert, but so far as I can understand, tomography is one of them, as you rightly pointed this out. So basically, the same satellite looking from different angles, an object is enough to retrieve information about the three-dimensional structure. So this is an equivalent of radar tomography. This is what a biomass, the satellite, is doing right now. We're in tomographic phase, and this will end somewhere around March 2027, and we will have a first global map of the world above ground biomass using TOMOSAR, tomographic phase radar for the entire planet, which will be really an amazing achievement if it works, of course, but it seems like it's working. That's one approach. But what LSC has been doing, and this is what I was showing here, is to use the structural features of this information, apply much more brutally to an AI application, and try to find features in this data that relates to canopy height. So in optical, it is kind of intuitive that using the shades and the size of the shades, you can have an insight into the height of the object. But in radar, it's much more complicated. So we don't have really, I don't think there is a real theory to understand why canopy height can be retrieved using radar information by these AI tools, but it seems to be working. So it needs to be unpacked. And there's so much AI related science that needs to be unpacked that I think this is just one of them. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
And we have another question, Jérôme, from Jafet Ndoko. I don't know if Jafet want to speak the question or if I read it. Jafet, can you explain your question? If you speak in English, but you can also make the question in French. Hein. Vous pouvez parler en français aussi si vous préférez.
Alors, moi, je ne parle pas trop l'anglais. En fait, je viens dans un pays où la langue autorisée pour l'éducation, c'est la langue française. J'aimerais savoir un peu, en utilisant l'intelligence artificielle pour identifier, par exemple, les plantes. On connaît qu'il y a plusieurs paramètres pour identifier des plantes en forêt. On peut voir le feuille, on peut voir l'écorce, on peut avoir plusieurs paramètres pour identifier un arbre. Mais en prenant 40 mètres, en utilisant les drones, vous avez pris en compte quoi comme paramètre concernant les éléments qui sont censés identifier une plante dans la forêt?
C'est une très bonne question, Jafet, merci beaucoup. La réponse, c'est que les photographies qui sont utilisées dans ce contexte-là, c'est des photographies de feuilles. Donc les feuilles, elles servent quand même bien quand on a la structure foliaire et l'agencement, le phyllotaxie. Ça permet de quand même bien distinguer différentes espèces. Alors il y a des problèmes, il y a des espèces qui sont très proches, très similaires, et donc qui sont pas faciles à distinguer uniquement sur la base de la structure des feuilles. Ça existe bien sûr. Et dans ce cas-là, il faut avoir des fleurs, ou il faut avoir d'autres caractères. Mais quand même, dans beaucoup de cas, avec l'application que je présentais, ben, on peut quand même aller au niveau de l'espèce. Voilà. Et donc, j'espère avoir répondu à votre question.
Oui, merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Jafet and Jérôme. So just maybe to translate in English for English speakers, Jafet asked what part of the plant PlantNet is using with the AI to recognize the plant, and Jérôme said it's mainly the leaf, but we can also use the flowers depending on of the plant. Yeah, but it's mainly the leaf. Thank you. And I think we went through all questions.
We have one last question, Laurent, from Vietnam, from Hien Nguyen. So the question is, almost evergreen forests in Vietnam have a lot of species and distribution in high mountain, where terrain is very complex to using low resolution image to identify species. So I don't see where's the question, but yes, there's a. I don't. If you want to speak loud, please feel free to ask your question, Hien.
Yes, Ian Nguyen, if you want to explain your question, please. Okay, so maybe if I understand well, the question is if all this methodology can be applied to mountain forest, where of course terrain make it more tricky because of the slope and orientation. I don't know, Jérôme, if you have any answer on that technical issue.
Yes. Yes, topography is a really great challenge in all this technology. Radar is actually supposed to first take away the topography and then explore canopy height. But this is assuming that we know already the topography, or that we can retrieve topography in addition to retrieving canopy height. And this is easy when the forest is on the flat ground, obviously. If the terrain is a bit is gently slow rolling, then there are some technologies, but in a very deep, very steep topography, it becomes quite difficult, and we are not 100% sure that the biomass mission in particular will be able to retrieve accurate data in that case. So this is still research in prep. So the one big challenge from my standpoint is to have ground data in areas where we have this topography, where we can actually test this type of problems. Because if we just look where we are happy with the data, we're in flat terrain, and we sort of overestimating the quality of our retrieval algorithm. And of course, Vietnam will be a great place to test this algorithm. So, you're welcome to join and try to test these ideas. This is the whole point of this meeting, trying to forge some new collaborations.
Thank you, Jérôme. And yes, as Jérôme said, the idea to have reached these 3 basins, including Southeast Asia and even Oceania, Papua New Guinea, Island, and country, would be great to share this method and improve them. So it's not necessarily good news for mountain forest, but it's a good news for research. There are more research to be done in these areas. I see Linda frozen, but I don't know if you can take the lead again to conclude. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Laurent. Maybe before ending this webinar, I see that we have one last question in French. If you still have 5 minutes, Jérôme and Laurent, maybe we can take this time to answer this question from Monsieur Amessinou from Togo, who is asking if how and in which condition Togo can. Okay, please feel free to ask the question aloud.
Monsieur Amessinou, on vous entend? Oui.
Monsieur Amessinou?
Ah, il a coupé le micro. We were listening to you if you want to explain your question. So I can start to answer, but don't hesitate to intervene. So as we said, we are mainly now working on Central Africa, but we share methods. The training are open to other countries, and of course, countries such as Togo, they are very important for us too, and we would be very, very happy to collaborate with researchers from Togo. Some of the maps we have shown you, they already integrate Togo. I think some of the map of Philippe Sier that Jérôme has shown. And if you need the data, if you were not able to find them, please enter in contact with us. I already shared our secretariat, Camille Lacroix and Tiffen de Gout. They are our executive secretariat, and they would be able to put you in the contact with the right person, depending on what you need, what type of data or anything. So don't hesitate to send them an email, and we would be very much happy to support the type of collaboration. Yeah. Yeah, I think we can. I don't know if Jérôme wants to say anything more about Togo and availability of data.
No, I'm sorry, I haven't followed the latest with regards to this mapping efforts. I think it would be great to ask this question directly to Philippe Sier and to their colleagues. Okay. But it would make sense indeed to have West Africa included in this project. The core objective of One Forest Vision is Central Africa with a limited number of countries, but West Africa has specific, very interesting challenges in many respects, as you know.
Yeah, and maybe about this regional view of Africa concerning forest. We talked a lot about humid forest, but we also look at the dry forest of the Miombo. And then northern, you have the great green wall and the Sahel forest, but also you have this forest of West Africa that are some of the with the highest production. So in terms of carbon fluxes and everything, so those forests are super important. Of course, we don't forget them. And so yeah, please don't hesitate to get back to us, and we will put you in contact with Philippe. And I think we answered all questions. And thanks a lot, Jérôme, again, because you had to do 3 presentations instead of 1. So thanks again.
Okay. So yes, really a big thanks to you, Jérôme, for making these 3 presentations, and also, of course, thanks to Laurent and also Bertrand, Solène, and all the participants also. That was a very rich webinar. We will distribute the slides with all the participants. The replay also will be available. Just maybe because we have mentioned the biomass mission, I want to say that we had organized a webinar dedicated to biomass, and it took place last year in November, so you can also access the replay. Just send me a message if you want to access the replay. I'm writing my address in the chat. And we also organized webinars on other thematics such as hydrology from space, also landslides monitoring. Let me remind, mangrove monitoring, and all these webinars that are available on our platform. Okay. So thanks again. So have a nice day or evening, and many thanks to our speakers and for their very, very valuable and inspiring presentations. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Cecilia.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.